Hello, my beloved souls. It has been a hot minute since I have done a solo podcast episode, and my soul is calling me back to the microphone. So I wanted to share some different aspects of terminology, for the pure reason of these are going to be life giving concepts as we move into the next 3 months, 6 months, 6 months of the year as we transition from the Pisces age into the Aquarian age. Now, we have already started this process. And one of the things that I'm going to be sharing on the podcast is very realistic ways that we can look at how the spiritual and personal development industry has progressed, where we are now, and power, meaning how you can take back your power. I am only in the business of giving other people power. So, we're going to go through some different terms today. And my pure intention is to tussle in a little bit of inspiration, some terms so that we can become familiar with these terms so that you can become more fluent in your vocabulary, because this is what's available to us all. What is my truth today? And that's what I wake up with every single morning, saying, my dear soul, what is my truth today? And this question is going to bring reverence around topics such as intuition, the vertical prism of light and the horizontal prism of light, and how we can use that to enhance our intuition, our perception of the world right now, and what a hologram and a holographic lens around the 7 aspects of the energetic body. Now, I am creating an oracle deck that is an immersive journey and experience and a learning tool and a practitioner tool. And it also has a beautiful guidebook, but it really is looking at the layers of who we are holographically and thereby energetically. And the pure intention is to, when we are learning and having knowledge that is in front of us, but with knowledge and no action taking is no action at all. We are going to be entering into a realm of society and drastic change, that these words, concepts, and tools are going to be a lifeline. So, my dear soul, what is my truth today? We'll get into why I say it that way specifically at a later time. But let's talk about power first. What can we all do to deepen and expand our connection? And the veil literally is melting between heaven and earth, as well as ancient mother and the underworld. So, first, let's talk about power. We have lived as humans in structures that are power over and that wants to take choice away. Power under wants to deny your choice. So let's think about power over as government and power under as manipulative religion. Power with is that everyone is on the same playing field, and power within is the power of your internal reverence to choice. And where we go with that is up. Because right now as society, we are at a crossroads where we can go left and right. So where we're at with power is really in, are we going to be in reaction or response to both the products of choice? And so I wanted to bring in the concept of understanding as a psychic and as an intuitive, how I share what intuitive perception is. And there's 2 different, and they're both relevant, of intuitive perception between intuitive vertical and intuitive horizontal. So in short, I describe vertical as going straight up. You get an instant hit. You know that it is from the divine. That is vertical prism of light, is the language. Drops in from a vertical perspective. That is divine intuition. The horizontal is more of our empathic intuition. It is going to embody and it is going to encompass the clairs, the clairsentience, all of these different ways that we pick up information. And so, one of the things that happens is that if we look at the vertical essence of our intuition and we look at the relationship of our psyche of the horizontal is where the current world kind of lives. We're always looking at the past and we're going into feedback loops, guidance loops that get us stuck running on the shadow of the treadmill. So when we're born into, and we'll talk more about this later with the chakras, we're born into a tribal system of control. So when we're born, we end up then moving into this individual ego that encompasses the subconscious mind, your personal shadow, and the archetypal collective unconsciousness, and that kind of shadow archetype that then becomes a dominant archetype. So let's say that you have a family that has a family of addicts, or you have a family that's highly Jewish. You can tell that there's these tribal archetypes that are dominant by culture, by social patterns, by history, and sometimes by the earth and where you are locality wise. And so when you really think about the power structures, it then goes back to what is our self esteem? Where is our soul esteem as we move into this really intense time in our lives? So, having this framing is important. So, when I refer to horizontal, it's a way of instantly receiving and understanding the information in its expression within the holism of creation. And this is going to occur, again, the light is coming in. There is no cognitive processing. It allows that first impression. So really start to pay attention when you have those. And when we have that direct knowing, that is coming from your soul's deeper knowing. It's wisdom and it's knowledge base in the now, in the past, in the essence of the spiritual realms, and when you choose to enter the Akashic records, which is a relational vibrational library to all of creation that we can access. So that vertical intuition is multidimensional. It's receiving information and guidance, and it's going to utilize your intuitive channels to access that holistic, holographic, multidimensional truth of any situation. Now, what gets in the middle of our intuition in modern day economy is what we call the trigger economy. Now, we have had countless books come up about what steals our attention and that our attention is always being stolen. And we live in a very impulsive world. Your phone is always dinging. The email is going to lead you to the next click to somewhere else, and before you know it. So the trigger economy is when we also feel inadequate or compelled to fix ourselves. So not only is it a disturbance, but it's also a pull towards a mindset, or I should say mindset rooted in a narcissistic behavior. It's driven by greed, it's driven by mind control, it's driven by manipulation, AKA power structures, power over, power under, and it's unconscious, and we must realize it. Because the important truth is that you are not flawed. You're not bad. You're not wrong. You don't need to be constantly healing yourself. That is the old narrative. That you need to fix yourself. That is not a state of consciousness, but it does need to be acknowledged that the external world is always going to insist otherwise, that you need to fix yourself. Done with that. And I did a quick Instagram today that my guides had dropped in. They're like, just find your love, find your excitement. Okay, cool. But then you have to take action on it. And when you take action on a vibrational excitement, which is a highly elevated frequency, they love being in that space with you. They're going to guide you into more opportunity. Think about it, if you're in a low state, highly depressed, confused, and just pissed, those opportunities, number one, you're not going to see them. And number two, we have a direct relationship with the light. Light wants to grow light, right? So we all face these subtle manipulations from narcissistic individuals that lead you to doubt your own sanity and question your worth. And at some point, my friends, we must collectively realize that enough is enough and we can choose how we want to live, how we want to be, without the need for continuous self-fixing or healing. It's a money-making jargon. It's a deep-seated program, and it's got to go. So I'm going to invite you into that because we're moving into the power of choice. And to have choice and awareness of your choices is where your power will always lie. There was this audiobook I caught wind of in a book review, and it was called Resurrecting Jesus, where this author emphasized that Jesus never said, I will heal you. And instead, he empowered individuals to hold faith and to hold trust. So I want you to think about his approach about what personal choice was. Not about fixing and healing. Even though he had those capabilities, he always wanted to empower others to have faith and trust in themselves. That you can do as I can do. So I want to really nourish this message about empowerment because it comes from stepping out of the mindset that something's wrong with you. And if anyone tells you that there's something wrong, there's a huge fucking red flag. What you need is support, someone to cheer you on, and to encourage you to move forward and find your highest level of excitement. So that's what a lot of these podcasts are going to be about. And the aspect of the terms that I use when I talk about the holographic journey, whether it's the holographic oracle card I'm making or this terminology in general, it is the ascension we're all going through right now, but I feel as though it is so important. I know that it's so important because my guides have brought it straight to my face and said, this is it for the next year. It's to talk about the holographic of who you are. Because this is where we're at. We're leaving an old world. And to understand the holographic body, which is the 7 chakras, the 7 universal principles of hermetic laws, the 7 circuits of emotion, the 7 subtle bodies, and the 4 elements are what you're made of and what you are in this container of all the time. And your, what I call internal prism of light from your heart is going to serve you as your beacon of divine guidance. And what we need to do is tweak the distortion of the light that is coming in. And this intuitive system activation, and however you choose to do it, we're going to talk about ways to do it. That is not hyperbole. That's not over the counter woo, is just so freaking crazy. I want you to really get this in the simplest terms that our energy system triggers protective mechanisms in response to past wounds. You already know this. Light also is information. So when we talk about holographic, everything is light. At the speed of light, we determined how it is perceived, how it is felt, how dense it is. And that universe is always continuing to offer divine light, providing you guidance, providing you healing. And here's how it occurs. And this is why we're going to talk very briefly about chakras today. So I'm going to be starting to do just as a short series on chakras. It's how you filter the information. So if you think about your chakras, we have far more than 7. And we're just going to be discussing the 7. But the light that comes in through the crown chakra, through the body, if we have a shadow archetype, the wounded healer, or the victim child, or the woman that is a prostitute archetype, which doesn't mean that you're a slut. It means that you've had to live in a man's world, always having to sell yourself to be able to survive. That is a prostitute archetype. There is a shadow in all of us. And the process here is to take back our power, shine a light on the shadow, heal it, feel it, Because if you feel it, you can heal it. And we then learn how. This is how you learn to excavate your intuitive and psychic telepathic gifts and your soul contract gifts. So again, intuitive system activation is going to be the energy and the light as information that universe is continuously offering you. The way you filter and distort it is what matters. So the shadow archetypes are driven by negative emotions. So obviously, those are going to distort the light. Think about a rainbow coming on the top of you, which has all colors of the chakra system, but you only catch one or two of them because of those shadows, blocking its flow to all of your energy centers, which in then brings illness, hypothyroidism, throat chakra, infertility, sacral and solar chakra. So that's where, if you've heard me talk about holographic readings, that is the path to not only helping you understand the emotion of the circuitry that's running the system, the chakra that it is creating distortions in, so we can get that cleared out, and the sacred contract that you wrote to self, other, or the universe to stay safe. We release that contract. And when we release the contract, you would be so amazed at how empowered you feel, especially once that unconscious is sitting right in front of you and you take control of it. It does not take long and is freaking fun. Ask my clients. I've got plenty of testimonials and examples on my Instagram page of taking clients through this. So we have to identify the blockage. We have to discover this specific chakra and shadow archetype. That is dimming your light. We have to release and renew and let go of the outdated beliefs that came from power over and power under structures that you lived in. It's not your fault. And once we stop fixing ourselves, we just look at what is true. We embrace our own power. That is where you come into your sovereignty and illuminate your own fucking path as we move into the Aquarian age. So this is the parallel and the collective awakening that is going on. And I believe that, in my opinion, from the holographic view, stage one is we are seeing a revolution. We are just in the beginning phases of this. And your intuitive activation, this desire for empowerment is going to ignite all of us as a collective. So this stage is going to bring confusion. It's going to bring pain and suffering. It's going to bring shock to the nervous system. And it's going to be signaling a break from these old patterns and reconnection with our internal prism of light, starting in the heart. It's going to bring us back together. Now, stage two is involution. It's light as information. So as we start to turn off the structures of the power over, power under, that is when the revolution then turns into introspection and allows us to start integrating and having our own faith and our own integration in this newfound power that we have never fully felt. So the universe is going to bathe you in divine light. It is going to and is offering you guidance and healing. But the shadow archetype can still come in and distort that light, preventing you clarity. Okay? Now, the third is going to be evolution. This is where you choose to step into, am I following my excitement? Am I stopping to fix myself? And am I being open to filtering the distortion as much as I possibly can? And then you just start flowing with more ease. Because when you cultivate self-reverence and a respect for the light that is being offered, you understand your interconnectedness. You understand your co-creative power. And this is the stage that is going to involve self-sovereignty, but also, if you need support, to filter out those distortions and embrace that divine light that is coming in from your intuitive sensory system. All right, taking a deep breath. So next, I want to tap into the chakra system. And we're going to be starting with some of the chakra aspects because they're a little bit more well-known in society. And we'll move into other aspects here in the future. But I'm going to be doing a series around the chakra and each developmental age and some of the physicalities around the chakra, which is super helpful. So I want you to picture this 7-story building where each of the floors is going to represent a chakra. It's going to have this beautiful spinning vortex of energy of that color. And each of those chakras vibrates at a very specific frequency that's really reflecting this evolutionary, revolutionary, involution type process, right? That we're continuing to filter. Now, these chakras also represent your soul contract since birth. So, going back to the archetypes that we're born into a societal unconscious society, we're going to start with the ground floor with chakra 1. Now, this chakra, I'm just going through the ages and key frames, is from ages, you guessed it, 0 to 7. And the first chakra is around tribe, the tribal power you're born into, and your safety and security. So it's going to govern your survival. It's going to govern how you take action. It's going to govern how these essential skills for thriving in a society and moving yourself around without fear when people do nothing other than challenge your survival. Where then you're going to go into floor 2, and this is the second chakra, and this is about the power of relationships. This develops from 7 to 14. This is where we're connecting to our connection with self, with our intimacy, with our collectiveness around your soul esteem and your self-esteem. And really this social landscape, I would say, during childhood and adolescence, that you move in and out of these friendships and learn those skills over time. And you also learn your power in these relationships over time, which then brings us to the third chakra, the third floor. And this is all about personal power. So if we look at the sacral chakra, number 2, the intimacy, the sexual urges. Now, the sexual aspect is also aligned with one of the emotional circuits, and that is the sexual circuit. And it's really not necessarily sexual at all. It is emergence. It is the thing when we feel safe, what emerges out of us of the life starting to take form in a relationship to the world around us. And so that third is about personal power. It's about self. It's about self-discovery, really shaping your identity now with the confidence as you grow into adulthood, ages 14 to 21. So think about your solar chakra and creativity, your ability to have relationships and have confidence in adulthood. So now we move up to floor 4. Now, the fourth chakra is about our emotional empowerment through the heart. And these around, of course, love, forgiveness, compassion. And the chakra is going to really deepen this understanding of love, but more than anything, self-compassion, self-love, self-intimacy with the truth as you enter that adulthood between ages 21 and 28. Moving on to the fifth floor, we've got your spiritual willpower at 28 and 35. You're having children. You have the willpower. You're confident at work. You're self-expressed. And so this is where you really focus on that throat chakra with your unique voice, with how you communicate with your truth, with how effective you are with your communication. And the sixth is the third eye, the ages 35 to 42. And this is when your wisdom starts to pop in. This is when you say, nah, gosh, the 40s really are the best age. You're out of all the drama because you cultivated that discernment. You're cultivating now your intuition with your third eye, and you're allowing this bigger and broader perspective in midlife. And last but not least, the seventh, we ended up at the top floor in the penthouse. And this is your spiritual power, ages 42 plus. Now, these are the lessons that are so sacred to our story. They are the connected points to the divine. They are connected points to your spiritual essence and your purpose. your soul's contract. And this is what opens the gateway to transcendent wisdom that flows all the way back down to the first floor. So, to really summarize and tune into these different penthouse floors, I call them, where do you sense that you oscillate the most? And most people never make it out of the first and second and third floor. And they continually heal themselves and get stuck down there and not believe in themselves. And it's where you remain trapped on those lower floors, bogged down in fear, limited perspective, in the shadow archetype. So that internal prism of light, though present, is very shrouded and weak because of emotional debris. Now let's move into ascending that next level of clarity, moving into the next floors. Each of the middle floors, the heart center, ascends where we start to have victory and we start to have ahas in our life that we don't give a shit what other people think. We still have limiting beliefs, but we're healing those wounds. We're moving into the heart center and having compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, removing judgment. So when we clear these blockages, your internal prism of light begins to shine brighter, especially in the heart space. Now let's move up to the penthouse, my friends. This is where we want our perspective. This is where the veil is starting to thin, and this is where our goal is, and such a delight to be there. Now, reaching that upper floor represents your highest activation of your chakra system. And it starts to connect to the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, eighth, and ninth chakra system, which is just dimensions, right? So this is where your center of intuition and wisdom, and your spiritual connection, your divine relationship with your spirit guides, where we enter through and raise our vibration in the Akashic records. It is your internal prism of light. It is the light that blazes with extreme clarity, with extreme softness, but reverence to getting it hit, and guiding you towards your highest timeline, your highest good. And it's possible. This is not theory. It is a delight, and it doesn't mean you don't oscillate up and down. That is the point of learning lessons. So this is what a holographic reading does. It helps identify the specific chakra and the shadow archetype dimming your light. And then together, you and I, we release that outdated contract where it was rent into. And that's where, intentionally, but unintentionally, through these actions, you're getting rid of those outdated contracts. You're embracing your power. And this is how that divine light starts to now float thoroughly through your own internal prism of light, where you start to learn to use your intuition and psychic telepathic gifts much easier. You trust yourself, and that is the most important thing. Because the present time, my friends, is all there is. Things can only change in the present time. And changing something in the present affects your entire horizontal timeline that I was talking about. And this is why when I do spiritual work, I go to my internal vertical prism of light. That is dynamic energy, and it is etheric. I then bring it down into the timeline, which helps me understand the clairs, what's kind of sense and feeling I'm getting around me. But the vertical is the most pure. That's why we cleanse the chakra system. And our intuition is that powerful inner voice that is going to empower you. It's going to help the clarity and to help you understand your soul esteem and the sacred contracts that no longer belong. So those archetypal identities are the patterns and the behaviors that we start to shed, that we adopted to survive. It became a part of our identity that we no longer need. And the thing that we're trying to fix is identities that we took on as an archetype to try to protect ourselves from a dirty world, which is now tumbling to the ground. This is going to get much easier. But we have to understand our impact of a collective unconscious. We have to understand our family patterns and cultural archetypes, how we got here. And you're not exempt from that. So that is the map your vertical journey. So we identify the historical archetype, we identify the current chakra systems, and we identify where this distortion, their intuition is being held. And that's the key to really self-exploration of no longer fixing yourself, but being clear in where your vertical of light has clarity and where it does not. And it happens quickly when you're engaged. So I wanted to really just send this out and start to utilize these terms that I use on the podcast so that we can start to understand the verbiage and to also understand you are not broken. I'm going to leave with that because I really want to empower you and for all of us to understand that this huge transformation right now is something that should be so empowering as we learn these truths that were hidden. I've been studying the fall of everything that is going on right now, from economics to the underground and to everything in between. And that's for another podcast. So I want you to really remember to let go of the need to fix things. Because when you stop trying to alter your world and just allow life to unfold naturally, the change and the positive change in the internal prism of light will happen more rapidly. And too often, my friends, we see things as solid, we see things as real outside of our perception. This is the biggest mistake because everything is occurring within our own awareness. Your body and your experiences only exist inside your consciousness, not outside. You are the observer. You are looking in, not defined by what. Because when you realize you can relax with whatever arises instead of feeling you must acquire, that you must avoid, that you must fix it, that you must research it, simply allow it. Simply allow things as they are. You're going to shift your perception. The clarity of the chakras will remain in vortex and allow them to vibrate at a higher frequency that liberates both you and the lie. Problems will start to dissolve, my friend, and the light returns. So I really want to encourage you, tell you I love you. Podcast is coming back. Try viewing everything, even these very serious life events, as passing thoughts rather than solid realities. Just pretend, even if you don't fully believe it. Your psychology will always rule over your physiology. So if you can settle into any thought peacefully without attachment or the perceptual aversion or distortion that we talked about, you can do so with any thought. This is the freedom from suffering. You no longer feel responsible for changing the content of your consciousness. And soon you will realize, as we end this podcast, that the ease and perfection by relinquishing the need to constantly interpret and control your experience is going to be the vertical alignment that starts to bring you back upright and integrity. Deeper meaning in life is going to arise from not giving meaning at all. So I encourage you to pop that balloon of self-contraction and realize your true nature as spaciousness and awareness in a relaxed, open state as we move into these intense times, and allow everything to transform around you. Be supportive of those around you and trust. No longer striving to fix. Even if you stub your freaking toe, it can be viewed as a thought of awareness. Okay, we all can achieve this state. Do not force belief. Simply observe as we move into these times. And remember the power of structures and how important that is. Power over wants to take your choice away. Power under wants to deny your choice. And here's where we're moving. Power with, where you allow people to be on the same playing field of non-judgment, and power within. Your sovereignty and your choice and your power within is a non-judgmental, dynamic view of choice. So dynamic, vertical intuition, static, horizontal. It's fixed. So spend more time in the non-locality of time, where there is no actual time, and spend time in the higher horizons. So I'm sending you all my love, all my light, and to remember your power within, and to support you and allow the trust to unconditionally build in the process of self-trust. Alrighty, my friends, welcome back to the podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.